Welcome to Superhuman Selling. We are going to have an incredibly powerful conversation today with Christi Civalier. Christi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Elyse. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, this is going to be fun, and we've been laughing behind the scenes a lot as we go. But what we're going to dive into and talk about today is the power of alignment and identity in selling,
Yes.
and how it's the things that we don't think we need to be leaning into that actually will unlock our next level. So Christi is an incredibly talented keynote speaker. You're a coach, you're a transformational coach.
Thank you.
You're the founder of the Quantum Code and the Be It Now framework. So we'll talk about those today. You're a certified consultant through our material as well. You've sold over 400 million in B2B sales as well. So this woman knows how to sell. You know how to make money. You know how to do the things, but you also know how to get under the hood of what's really keeping somebody stuck in their sales or in their goals. So share a little bit about, from your experience. I think that so often people think if they want to grow their sales, maybe they're in B2B sales, maybe they're in tech sales, they're in any kind of sales, they're an entrepreneur. They think, I just need another funnel. I just need a better script. I just need to work harder. I just need to grind harder. How often do you hear that? And what is actually the truth?
Yes. It's funny you say that because there's probably like 4 or 5 of my clients right now that we've started, and all they ever want to do is give me the sequence. Give me the
Yeah.
sequence. And I'm like, sequence? And they're like, the emails. Give me the email sequence. I'm like, we need more than email sequence. But start out, I get them in a little bit slowly, and we start kind of dabbling into what that could potentially look like with some of the tactics around using ChatGPT to help formulate the research and all the account dynamics that you need to start messaging in. And once they determine that they can make that bold move to go into the C-suite, because usually when we're on the Zoom, we crack the email and I'm like, send it.
Yeah.
You send it because we're not getting off until you send it. They're like, send it now. I'm like, just send it, forget it. Let's move on. We got other things we got to talk about. 2 days later, just happened today. Check my email. Oh my gosh, I got an email from XYZ. We need to schedule some time to talk about how we're going to get there. And so what this allows me to help them with is to truly understand that there are a lot of tactics and frameworks that you can really work into. But it's not about the amount of time that you work. It's more about really the energy that you're putting into the intention of what you're trying to get out of it. And we really have worked on that. If you're showing up in a place of service,
Yeah.
whether it's in tech sales, whether it's in, just even entrepreneur and selling programs,
Yeah.
it's really, if you're there and showing up in a place of service, we are able then to start working on the areas that might be holding you back.
Mm.
And I think with the identity portion of it, there's so many things that we have been programmed with growing up that you don't even realize. I think you were one of the first people that actually kind of put out to me anyway, you know, you got to start questioning, is this even true? So with your help and all the coaching that we have done, I've taken some of the things that were really important to my success lately and shared them with the customer. Old personality, new personality is one of my favorites. And I have my clients sit down and really kind of start talking about, what is that old personality? What is holding you back? And they really have to stop and think. It's almost like I was there. I remember that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And they're just in awe as they're writing a list of things. And then it is, who is this new person? You're telling me you want to make $500,000. You want to make $1 million this year. We can't take our dirty laundry from one vacation in our suitcase to the next.
Mm.
And
I love that we were putting it.
and so they kind of look at me and I'm like, so if you're going to still talk to yourself about not being in the position to ask for the order, ask for the appointment, meet with the right people, we're not going to get to $500,000.
Yeah.
Right. And we really spend a little bit of time just diving into that. Every day I tell them, please make sure that you're keeping up on this, because you're going to find things that come up that kind of stunt where you are in the day.
Yeah.
Once we get through that, then we start working on our mission statement and what's kind of tying them into giving them that goal of where they want to be. and why they're doing it. Their why. I'm finding that when you're in a high performance, kind of high tech sales, understanding that why beyond, I want to make $500,000, I want to make it to President's Club. Why are you really doing this? Because it does take up a lot of time and energy,
Yeah.
right, to get those deals kind of kicked off. But then I'm also trying to incorporate to in them is, how are we going to save you from the burnout?
Mm.
And then they're like, yes, I understand that. So we start looking at the calendar, right? Which becomes a godsend and taboo. But at that time, what I say is, if you can manage your calendar, you're going to manage your income.
Mm.
And so what we do is we look at everything, going back to that list of what you love to do in sales. We make sure we're prioritizing that after we prioritize the family. Because I work with a lot of women and men too that want to be actively involved in their children and their families' lives. So we take a look every Sunday. I have everyone look at their calendar. What is the most important thing you have to do this week for your family?
Mm.
And once they look at that, then I say to them, okay, is it a must do that you have to be there? Because there are some things, like with my kids now at this age, like, do I really want to be at the dentist at the 15-year-old when we're going to the orthodontist 3 times every 2 months? No. So, like, where can you outsource some of that?
Mhm.
Right? So that you can get that time back, but your children are okay with the fact that you might not be going,
Mm.
right? When my kids are in and out for 10 minutes and I'm taking 40 minutes to get them there and get them back to school and get home, that's not a really good use of my time. So we talk about those things and get people very comfortable with investing in themselves
Yeah.
and understanding what the cost of their time is.
Mm.
And once they are looking at that, they look across their week and they feel very good about their priorities. Because I say, if you feel good about your priorities, then you're going to feel good about what you have to do for the rest of your week.
Mm.
Then we look at something where you and I met, Ian Koniak, Untap Your Sales Potential. There's something he put out there that I never realized after I'm almost 40 years into selling, about your RGAs, your revenue generating activities. And obviously, that's where you want to spend the most of your time.
Yeah.
So we kind of get into a checklist about where are you spending most of your time. Well, a lot of times you can find some of these performers that are high performers are not spending their time in the right places. So, in meaning, for those of you in sales, it's around invoicing, billing problems, getting back to customers that, you don't really need to drop everything you're doing to get to them, internal meetings. So, we have a good conversation about that. And I put 2 time blocks on my calendar and I write it down because these are things I've always hated to do,
Yeah.
but I've changed it to things I love to do.
Hmm.
And so on Tuesdays and Thursdays at certain times of the day, I allow myself to put any non-revenue generating activity into these 2 buckets.
Hmm.
And then I will write them back immediately. If the
Yeah.
customer's hair is not on fire, hey, by the end of the day, Tuesday, I should have a response to you.
Yeah.
Get that back to them. And then what we do is then we fill in everything else, meetings, self-care time, which is very important that you shared with me. I used to be of the motto, like, if I have to do something, it can't between the hours of 9 to 5. And that is not true, because I tell my clients now, like, if you need to go out for a run, if you want to go to the sauna, if you want to go and take a cold plunge in the middle of the afternoon, plan it in your calendar and put things in there that make you feel good, because it helps your day go faster. Once we get that in there and everybody's got their time in there for what matters, there's so much free time
Mm.
that people are now starting to understand, I can get my job done in 4 or 5 hours a day. And I can start my side hustle. I can spend more time with my children. And you really allowed me the permission to understand that, you know what, even though I'm working in corporate America right now, I'm still in control of my calendar and of my life, and that I can make it work for me so that I can show up as a good employee. So I'm really helping my clients understand that concept, which I'm starting to see a lot of folks really becoming very happy in sales, instead of that, like, just grinding and hustling and just not being able to communicate honestly and openly to their management and to people around them, with where they are and what they're doing with their time. So that has been one of the biggest things that I've been able to do with allowing those people to be able to step into this new identity
Mm,
of giving them the permission to be able to work that makes the best sense for them and their family.
yeah, I think that's so powerful. And you and I both came up in sales, like the old way of doing sales too, and the very grind, hustle, like nothing. And I'll say masculine energy culture, nothing
Yes.
wrong with masculine energy, but we all understand and know that the business world is shifting and moving. And that kind of the old way of doing business and selling doesn't necessarily serve, especially for us as women.
Yes.
So, what's the biggest transform actually, here's what I'd love to ask you. What is something that you used to believe to be true that you thought you had to do to be successful in sales that you know is just not the case anymore?
I thought I had to work 12-hour days.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the last one on email. I wanted to be the first one on in the morning.
Mm,
I wanted to even be like when I was at the gym, I'd always have my email. I'd be like responding right away. And none of that is true.
yeah.
I mean, the first time I really checked my email in the morning is not until like 8:30.
Mm,
When I drop my kids off for school, I do not pick that up at all because I don't want to get sidetracked from my working out, my meditation, my journal, my getting the kids to school peacefully.
yeah.
Then I will look at my email because when you really think about it, um, there's nothing that you have to respond to that early in the morning.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And just because someone sent you an email at 12 o'clock at night because they couldn't sleep or whatever it was, doesn't mean you need to respond at 7 in the morning when they're still in bed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I really think that when you can truly become comfortable,
Yeah.
right, in knowing what your purposes and your intentions are for sales, and you really do lean into looking at your week and how you can plan it best for you, it really does give you that sense of freedom,
Mm,
and it gives you that ability to be able to show up in a way that is best for you.
yeah.
And that's where I find I see a lot of miracles start happening for people, and they're like, "Why is this so easy?"
Yeah.
And I go, "It's easy because you are selling and you're in alignment with yourself."
Mm-hmm. What
Right?
does that mean when you say to sell in alignment with yourself? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means that I detach from the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
that I show up when I wanna show up,
Yeah.
and I perform not I don't wanna say perform.
Mm,
I do what I need to do to make sure that I'm in service to both my clients, my management, and my, overall organization,
mm,
but I
mm,
plan it on my time so I never feel like I'm reacting.
yeah.
I'm in a very proactive mode, which allows me to keep my anxiety and keep that stress level down,
Right.
and then I can also, like, build in that creative space
Mhm.
where I need it because there's a lot of times that, you know, especially when you have been in tech sales for a long time, you have very few accounts,
Mm,
right? And you really got to go wide and deep and make the relationships. And that really takes a lot of time to sit and really kind of strategize. And with AI, it helps. And it really also has helped collapse time
mhm.
with the amount of meetings and things that you need because you can really show up with a strong POV and go in and hit the nail on the head, and all of a sudden, like, you're taking a normal 18-month cycle and collapsing it right down into 6, and
Mm,
it's, a $2-3 million deal.
mm.
But that comes with a lot of time where white space in your calendar is very important, and it's the exact opposite when my manager goes, "I'm gonna look at your calendar." I go, "Look at it, because 'cause you're not gonna like it." Right? And then he always says, "How do you get everything done?" And I said, "Ancient Chinese secret." Um, but it is one of those things where I think once you can step into that person
Mm,
and really allow yourself to feel comfortable about what you're doing, show up when you need
mm.
to show up and be there in full presence, I think that that is really key to it's a real key to unlocking success
It
in
is.
corporate America.
It is. And there's a framework that we teach that in the Superhuman Selling community about selling from wholeness, which is, I think in my own journey for so long when I was in corporate sales and then even as an entrepreneur earlier on, so much of my selling was about trying to fill a void, trying to feel worthy, trying to feel validated. If I can make this amount of money, if I can close this many deals, then I'll be worthy, successful, etc. Which it never happens. It's never enough because you're coming from an inherent place of lack. And so some of what I hear you saying is actually looking at what matters to me. I know you mentioned like emissions, like having your own personal mission, your why, and knowing what truly matters to you. And I always think about the way that someone can help, at least how I see it, the way that someone can figure out what that is like if you're on a desert island and no one ever knows how you lived your life, no one ever knows what kind of car you drove, what kind of house you had, you're the only one who has to live your life. What matters to you? I think there's a lot of clarity in that. And I think that with what you're doing, it is helping people connect with their authentic self and then sell from that place. I'm curious how this ties in with your Be It Now framework. So I know that you're really, really passionate about identity work in selling and in all parts of life too. So what is that framework and how does someone start to apply it to ascend their results?
Yes. I think the biggest thing is with the Be It Now is really taking a look at where you're out of alignment,
Mm.
right? I remember, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, a couple years ago, just feeling that I'm five different people. I'm a mother, I'm a friend,
Yeah.
I'm a worker, and all parts of my life weren't integrated. Like I remember my girlfriends didn't even know. Like if one of their husbands said, "Oh my God, Christy just closed this big deal. I saw it on LinkedIn or something." They'd be like, "What do you even do?" Right? So it wasn't even like it was accepted in that sense when you're like with girlfriends to be talking about your success when they're not in business and don't understand it and they don't want you to be an extension of their husband
Right.
from that perspective. So I think that the Be It Now allowed me to really kind of take a look, and this is what I was hoping that people could take away. Look at every area of your life,
Yeah.
right? Because when you are living in separate compartments, it becomes very tiring. And again, it's not like you're showing up as a different person. You're just not fully integrated,
Yeah.
right? Is that person that you should be showing up at a dinner party and be like, "Yes, I work and I've got kids and I've got this and I've got that going on and I'm good and I can be here and have a good time," right? I think once we start looking to integrate all of those pieces in what we do in helping folks get to that point is Be It Now is really looking at those components. Who are you? And start asking those questions of who are you?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in 2, 3, 5 years from now? And how do we start pulling all these pieces in for you to show up as that one person? I think one time when you and I had a one-on-one coaching call and we were talking about like the life of a sales, especially woman, and then who are you?
Yeah.
There was such a dichotomy and that it is you don't even realize it like you are living this parallel life
Yeah.
for years and to integrate that earlier on in your professional career is going to allow you to live this life of joy and use sales as the means to the end,
Yeah.
right? Because when you get good at it, as you know, you've like just are the inspiration for me and for so many people is when you get good at that and understanding those priorities and being that person that truly understands how they can live life on their terms, it really becomes this special I don't even know what to say. It just is this special thing that life is looked at so much differently, and it's not hard, and sales aren't hard, and, you get to enjoy everything that you deserve
Mm.
and more.
Yeah. How often do you see that in the work that you do, people leading parallel lives? I think I did that for a long time.
Mhm.
And I felt like I always had to put on a mask
Yeah.
to be safe. I mean, it's a survival mechanism, right?
Yes.
But I think about, in the space that I'm in now, it's not I don't come into it every day the way that I used to when I was working in the corporate space and when I personally was living that, but I think it's so common, and I'm curious how
It
often
is.
you see that
I
with
see
the work you do.
I see it a lot, and especially, like, even in this day and age, I am the only woman on a team of 9 men.
Mm,
Like, are you kidding?
mm,
Like, so, there was always this perception, especially 20, 30 years ago when I truly was one of the only women in a sales force of 200,
yeah,
that you would show up as this masculine version of yourself
right.
in a mask, and you spoke when spoken to, and you went out and you wanted to perform, to achieve, to be looked at a little bit differently in the
Mm,
company, in the organization, or be one of the men. And today I'm finding that in a little bit different, softer way, but it is helping everyone understand that they do have a voice and that they're very respected, and they need to step into their power as opposed to letting these old programs
yeah.
still continue to run in the background when they're showing up.
Mm,
Like, it was very interesting. I don't know if this was a backhanded comment or it was truly a good comment, but the other day on our team call, like, I was quiet and listening, and, I again, it's one of those things where my issues are much different than the men's issues, and
yeah.
my boss was leaving the call, and he's a fabulous man, but, there was a comment that came out, and I had said something, and they go, "Christy, you're just dumb as a fox."
Mm,
And I go, "I like that," because that's implying, right, that there is a there's a sense of knowingness
mm,
that I know,
mhm.
but it's also that undertone of being, sly
Yeah.
and able to kind of, like, navigate in this weird kind of environment that you're in
Uh,
and just still be a peer.
mm,
So it's kind of one of those things that it's just always thinking.
yeah.
And, and you kinda think about it too, especially back even today, even getting up and getting dressed in the morning to go to work. It was never easy. You always had a different wardrobe because something might have been too slinky, something might have been not appropriate, some skirt might have been too short. And there was always judgment around that. And I found that as I got further into our work and things that we're doing, when I accepted who I was,
Yeah.
then it just became, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm not going to change
Mm,
for that,
yeah.
right? So I think that's a lot of it too.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful, and I know one of the things that you stand for, and I think one of the things that you've embodied too in your journey is knowing and understanding where you're dimming your light to try to fit into old places,
Yeah.
and it can be uncomfortable because those old places are so familiar, even if they're not loving to us, even if they're not supportive to us.
Yes.
There's environment spaces, maybe it's a job, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a client relationship where you realize that to keep that relationship intact, you are having to shrink, you are having to dim. And so, what would you say to someone who's finding themselves in that scenario where, again, maybe they're walking into the workplace every day and they're like, I don't feel like I can be myself here and be safe. Or again, maybe it's a personal relationship, maybe it's something else. But what does someone do if they're finding
Yeah.
themselves in that situation?
Um, it's been interesting because there's been several folks that I've been coaching lately that we've been going through this journey together.
Yeah.
And some of them are in relationships, which is always sensitive, right? Because
Mm,
I'm not a therapist, but I can guide in a way of talking to them, to their heart, who they are,
yeah.
right? And what's important to them, and kind of seeing the bigger picture. In the corporate world, however, when I'm getting these texts or frantic calls or just that look on your face of like deer in the headlight, right? I take a step back and I said, let's talk about now. Like,
Mhm.
what are you feeling with your job?
Yeah.
We get back into the what do you like? What do you don't like? And then we've determined on several people that they weren't in alignment with either the core values of the company
Mhm.
or what their job description was. Like if they were a hunter and they've got all accounts where they're all, fully product and you go in and sell, cross sell, upsell, and vice versa.
Right.
And so what we did there was I had them continue during their day-to-day job, but I said, let's start looking elsewhere.
Mhm.
Here's some places I think you might want to investigate.
Yeah.
And then they would start looking out and I go, this is an exercise. Is the grass greener or not? Right?
Mhm.
Giving them the permission to be okay with stepping into a different sales role
Yeah.
if needed, where I think, especially for you and I, it was like we stayed.
Yeah.
We
Mm.
stayed. We didn't know if it was wrong or right. We felt that you didn't trust our instincts because there were so many other things that were clouding who we were as people.
Mhm.
We weren't able to trust that, oh, maybe I'm overstaying my welcome,
Yeah.
right? I talk a lot about with folks that are in this is, what season is this? Is it time to change?
Mm.
Right? And just start feeling comfortable with that. What does that mean to you? What does that look like? Let's just go out and do maybe for a couple job postings. Let's go take a look at them. Let's get your resume up and let's run it through AI and see how you can be the best candidate for this job. So it really is about alignment.
Yeah.
And because, 4 or 5 of them have stepped into new roles and they're like different people.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I think when we realize that most things aren't meant to be forever
Right.
necessarily, that nothing is constant, that change really is the only constant, and we kind of release the grip and the attachment and sometimes the judgment or shame that we or oftentimes fear of letting something go, right? We allow we use what we call the law of sacrifice, which we talk a lot about universal laws
Yes.
in the community that we're always sacrificing one thing for another. And so what we want to do is intentionally trade up with everything. So if you're clinging to a job or maybe it's just a role within a company, maybe it's a business that you built years ago and you're like, that this was my dream and now it's sucking the life out of you. We have to be willing to release that to make space for something greater to come in. Just like if your closet is full of all the old clothes and you're not willing to let go of any of them, you can't have a new wardrobe, right? You got to let go and make space first for what you want. So I'd love if you could speak just a little bit before we tell people with where they can connect with you. Um, it's fun because in this work, in this community, we weave in sales, science, spirituality, and so I know that you love quantum physics like I do too, and so your framework or your methodology around the quantum code, I'd
Yes.
love if you could speak to that a little bit. Is that based in quantum physics? What does that look like,
Yes.
and how do you use that with clients?
Yes. So again, thank you for getting me into all of that. But the quantum code is also starting to when everybody starts getting ready to up level, then we start talking about what does that mean to meditate? What
Mm,
does that mean to start looking at how we can collapse our timelines? What does that mean to really start envisioning, embodying, and really reaching into how we can pull that energy in now? So there are some of my clients that are really starting to get advanced. And so it's really fun to see them starting to go down the path of truly understanding what quantum physics is, what the quantum
mhm.
code can do to help bring things in. And for example, I've been working with one of my clients for I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months, and he really came in with this strong desire, had some Joe Dispenza background, and so we kind of connected on that level. And then he needed to, well, he didn't need to, but his father is the CEO of his company,
Mm,
and he didn't want nepotism, but he wants to, promote his son to a very high level. And he's like, I need you to really start pulling in some big numbers.
yeah.
And he goes, my dad just gave me a quota of like 2 million. What do you think? I go, let's do it. I go, let's figure it out. And I said, but first, before we start digging into the accounts, right, we need to get grounded in what this is
Mm,
going to look like and the energy that you need to show up in
yeah.
and how we're going to call the deal in and to bumps in the road,
Mhm.
right? And all the things that happen during the deal process. So we started down this path.
Yeah.
He did his vision, his intentions for the deal. every time he came with, that bump in the road, or they said this or they said that. And I'm like, yep, that's a course. It's not going to just happen, but is the deal done? He's like, the deal's done. I go, okay, so now we just have to pull it into 3D. So we worked that way. And within the time that we've worked together, he pulled this $1.8 million deal in yesterday and was like, oh my gosh, this was so crazy. And I go, but you believed and you put it out there that the deal was done. And then we just had to take those aligned actions to make sure that it was closed.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. So he shared the win with the rest of the community. And now they're like, people are starting to open up a little bit more because there's a lot of resistance around that. But I always say you've got a choice every day.
Yeah.
You can wake up and see the good and, start really focusing on what it is that you want, or you can continue to stay down the path where nothing is going to change. And so the ones that kind of start going down that path and start focusing on, oh, this could happen.
Yes.
So-and-so did it. Maybe I can do it. Right. So those are the big things that I find with that, and working to make this reality, more solidified for everyone.
It's really fun when you start integrating and marrying spirituality, quantum physics, collapsing timelines with really great strategy, because that's valuable and that matters. But again, as we know, according to neuroscience, 95 to 98% of our results are based on our self-concept, our identity. And when we learn how to play with these other concepts and play with, like you said, pulling the reality that we're desiring into the 3D, and we do that energetically and emotionally first, vibrationally, and then we take the aligned actions, it can happen way faster than we think. We can quantum leap so much faster than we think. Yeah.
And it's exciting to see it happen for others, in the sense that when they really do, and this word is, I think my spirit word these days, surrender. And when they trust the process and they really kind of lean into the systems that we've put in place to support them, it's like they really become different people and they start thinking differently about it. They start acting differently about it. And then the next thing you know, I think it surprises them. And I'm just like, of course, like you always say, of course, it's here.
Yeah.
It's in the course.
Yeah, I love that. Christi, tell everyone, where can they connect with you? Where can they follow you, find out more about your work, your brilliance, everything you shared today?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can be found on Instagram at Christi Civalier, Facebook Christi Civalier, and www.christicivalier.com.
Amazing. Amazing. We'll link all of that in the show notes.
Thank
I want
you.
to just acknowledge you for your evolution, for how you continue to show up for yourself, and how you also really have redefined how to create an amazing, successful, prosperous career in corporate and outside of it by becoming more and more true to yourself. So thank you for that, and for the work that you do for everyone as well. This has been a really beautiful conversation.
Thank you, Elyse.
Absolutely. All right. I can't wait for you to connect with Christi. Like I said, we'll link everything in the show notes. I want to thank you, as always, for being a listener to Superhuman Selling. And I want to remind you to trust yourself on your path to success. Remember that your desires are green lights leading you and everyone around you to a brighter future. I'll see you on the next episode.